what's in Hunter Biden's life. I mean, Hunter Biden, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared.
You didn't answer me yes or no.
It takes
yeah,
to
I know
keep
that
Donald Trump. I will be doing whatever it takes to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office.
Well,
at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared.
Hey, what's going on, folks? We have a great show for you today. So that smooth brain in the clip I played is fake intellectual Sam Harris, who's somehow been conning the world for the last decade into thinking he's smart or honest. He's obviously neither. Maybe it's ego, maybe it's pride, maybe he's dumb, maybe he's just a phony. I don't know, we're gonna talk about it. But his completely psychotic logic, even at one point saying that Trump University would be worse than Biden's son possibly selling our country out to foreign countries.
Understand that he's getting kickbacks from Hunter Biden's deals in Ukraine or wherever else, right? Or China. It is infinitesimal compared to the corruption we know Trump is involved in. It's like a firefly to the sun.
I mean, this guy is literally an idiot. But he's known as the intellectual dark web. He's so smart, says groups of people who think that their poop doesn't stink. Yeah. And the other clip is obviously Liz Cheney, who got blown out of the water in her primary. So now she possibly sets her sights on president.
You said this fight is just beginning. You've even launched a political organization already. So let's just be straight about it. Are you considering running for president yourself?
Well, what I'm going to do, Savannah, is spend the next several months completing my work in Congress, obviously completing my work representing the people of Wyoming. We have a tremendous amount of work left to do on the January 6th committee. And also, though, I'm going to be making sure that people all around this country understand the stakes of what we're facing, understand the extent to which we've now got one major political party, my party, which has really become a cult of personality. And we've got to get this party back to a place where we're embracing the values and the principles on which it was founded, and talking about, fundamental issues of civics, fundamental issues of what does it mean to be a constitutional republic.
But Congresswoman, you didn't answer me yes or no.
It takes to keep Donald Trump. I will be doing whatever it takes to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office.
Well,
Notice how she says she'd do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes? That's not really promising. Speaking of that type of logic, here's a creepy message from former CIA Director Michael Hayden responding to Edward Luce, who said, "I've covered extremism and violent ideologies around the world over my career, have never come across a political force more nihilistic, dangerous, and contemptible than today's Republicans. Nothing close." He said, "I agree, and I was the CIA director." Yeah, that will surely gain trust among the intelligence communities like Merrick Garland so desperately wants, telling half or more of the country that they're even worse than terrorist organizations in foreign countries and the worst people in the world, literally. Isn't that the same guy that signed off on Hunter Biden's laptop being disinformation? Wasn't that a lie? Well, I don't know that these people care, because they just want to do whatever it takes.
You didn't answer me yes or no.
It takes
yeah,
to
I know
keep
that
Donald Trump. I will be doing whatever it takes to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office.
Well,
at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared.
The live show starts now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Dream Rare Podcast. If you're just joining, I have three different things I want to talk about today. Former CIA Director Michael Hayden pretty much said that Republicans are like the most dangerous thing in the world he's ever seen. I played that little example of his tweet, which is pretty psychotic, but whatever. Also, I want to talk about Liz Cheney, who said she'd do whatever it takes to defeat Donald Trump. And it's like, there's some people, whatever it takes, like, okay. And then also Sam Harris. I'm going to play this clip again a few times just so you can see how psychotic this guy is. Let's just play a little clip and then we'll talk about it.
I don't care what's in Hunter Biden's life. I mean, Hunter Biden, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have.
He said Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement and he wouldn't care. Sam Harris, by the way, I've never liked this guy. He's like paraded around with like Jordan Peterson and like, I don't know, like the Weinstein brothers and Joe Rogan. And, you know, they've called themselves the intellectual dark web. Oh, the super smart guys that are just fighting the left wing. And I always listen to Sam Harris and I felt like I was taking crazy pills because I'm like, this guy's an idiot. You know, like everybody's like, dude, he's so intellectual. He's so smart. And I never really got it. You know, he's a silver spoon baby. I guess his mom wrote the Golden Girls and like directed it or whatever, which is very great. You know, I love the Golden Girls. I have a Golden Girls shirt. So his mom's pretty cool. But it's like he's this like atheist Jewish guy who talks about how bad Christianity and Islam is. And it's like, maybe you should be a Muslim or a Christian, because then you wouldn't think it's cool to have corpses in a basement, or you wouldn't be so mad at the orange man that you're willing to say that you have no problem with like corpses in a basement. I think you need religion, Sam Harris. I think your little atheist like satanic shtick of trying to tell everybody how smart you are and that they should disabandon religion to be like you. No one smart or honest or moral should ever want to be like Sam Harris. Kids, don't be like Sam Harris, because then you'll be an idiot. You'll be like a 40 or 50-year-old man who sits there and thinks that his shit doesn't stink. Meanwhile, he literally makes no sense. I don't even like Donald Trump that much anymore because he turned into a big pharma salesman, and I have the evidence that he sold our country out to big pharma. But still, I make sense. I'm logical. I'm not like emotional about it. I'll just tell you the facts. I'll be like, yeah, he's not my first choice, but I'm not going to like take down the whole world in an effort to stop him from getting to power again. Like, these people are such losers. And, you know, that's the type of person he is. He thinks he's so smart, yet the most basic common sense things, he's wrong about like literally everything in politics. Let's play this whole clip because it's pretty funny / pathetic. And keep in mind, people think that this guy's an intellectual, which is also really funny.
I don't care what's in Hunter Biden's. I mean, Hunter Biden, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared, right? It's like, there's nothing. First of all, it's Hunter Biden, right? It's not Joe Biden. But even if whatever scope of Joe Biden's corruption is, like if we could just go down that rabbit hole endlessly and understand that he's getting kickbacks from Hunter Biden's deals in Ukraine or wherever else, right? Or China. It is infinitesimal compared to the corruption we know Trump is involved in. It's like
the guys interviewing him are just looking at him with a blank stare because they're like, this guy is such an idiot. It gets dumber and dumber and dumber. I didn't want to play the whole clip because I didn't want to get flagged. I know Jack Posobiec has a 2-minute clip of that. You could watch the whole interview. I think it's called Trigonometry or something. But like, it just gets worse and worse. He says that it's Trump University was worse than possibly Biden's son, you know, working with Ukraine or China. Like, this is the logic he has. Like, I'm like, listen, I don't know how bad Trump University is. Like, it definitely didn't work. You know what I'm saying? It's not a business that's still operating clearly. But, you know, Trump's failed business is worse than selling the country out to a foreign country. Like, these people are literally deranged. When people say Trump derangement syndrome, I think it goes two ways. I think there's people who hate him so much, like Sam Harris and Liz Cheney, that they'll literally do whatever it takes to stop him out of their own ego. And then there's people that like lick the dirt off his shoes and don't even want to pretend that he's ever done anything wrong. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's like Sam Harris, I listened to a large portion of the interview. I can't play it for copyright reasons. I think I would get flagged. But I'm like listening and it just keeps getting dumber and dumber and the guys are staring at him. And I've listened to Sam for years because they were trying to pitch him as this intellectual in like the Joe Rogan atmosphere. And I never could get with it. I never thought he was smart. He was always just like, Islam bad, you know, Christianity bad. I'm a smart atheist Jew who's basically just living off of mommy's money, or now he probably gets his own money. You know, his mom wrote the Golden Girls, made a bunch of money. Then he had a silver spoon in his mouth and told everybody religion's so bad. But, you know, I don't know. You're not selling me to like turn my back on Christ, bro, when you're this atheist psycho who thinks this.
I don't care what's in Hunter Biden's. I mean, Hunter Biden, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared.
That means you're a psychopath, Sam. That means you need to find Jesus Christ, or, you know, I would even be fine with you getting on your knees 6 times a day and praying to Allah. Anything is better than you hating Donald Trump so much that you're literally okay with corpses in a basement. Like, there's something wrong with you, dude. and you've never been that smart. I would love to debate Sam Harris. He justified basically the misinformation. You know, when Trump was running for office, and getting into the mind of Sam Harris is like getting into the mind of a lot of left-wingers and people like Liz Cheney. You know, they don't care about logic, reason, truth, anything, democracy, republic. Like, everything they claim is a lie. They just hate so much. They have so much emotion that they just want to stop someone at any cost. Like, I'm listening further, and he's explaining, because the people that were interviewing him were pretty epic, and they were like, you know, like, why did you push? Because I think he was one of the people who pushed the, you know, Hunter Biden laptop is disinformation. You had a bunch of intelligence community people sign off on that. And anybody with 2 eyes, ears, and half a brain, whether you voted for Trump or not, knows that the mainstream media and idiots like Sam Harris and all these other intelligence officials, they pushed this because it was an election changing moment. You know, if everybody knew that Hunter Biden's laptop was real, he was so maybe potentially allegedly drugged out that he dropped it off somewhere and forgot about it. Everyone's like, why would he do that? You know, maybe he wants to snitch on his dad. It's like, maybe, but maybe when you smoke crack, you know, things don't make sense. You know, it's like, everyone is like, why would Hunter? It's like, I'm not telling people to smoke crack because it's not a good idea, but like, if you ever smoked a lot of crack, you would figure out that you don't think clearly. So maybe he really did just, like, you know, botch his laptop and forget about it because he was smoking drugs. I don't know. Allegedly, reportedly. Someone said, get off atheists, bro. Cry about it, okay? Go. You could talk to Sam Harris. I'm not blaming all atheists for Sam Harris. I'm just saying he needs God. If you're so upset about me talking about atheists now, go have a conversation with this guy, okay?
I don't care what's in Hunter Biden's. I mean, Hunter Biden, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared.
Have a conversation with him because he wants to have it. I don't, okay? You could talk about you could talk in circles for 15 hours and just be like, I don't believe in God, I believe in the universe. And, you know, Sam Harris will want to talk about it. I don't, though. So if you're too emotional or too triggered by what I'm saying to take the live stream, click the X. There's probably a bunch of people like Sam Harris. They'll be, yo, Islam's so bad and Christianity's so bad, and oh my gosh, I'm so smart, I hang out with the Weinstein brothers, and they're like, climate change is, you know, very bad for the world. And then I'm like, hey, Weinstein brothers, this literally happened, by the way. I went to like a Dave Rubin show with one of the Weinstein brothers. I always mix them up, Brett and Eric, because they remind me of each other because they're like brothers. But anyway, he's like talking on Dave Rubin's stage about climate change. And I'm like, why does Dave Rubin even have this guy here? And I started asking him, I'm like, did you ever know that there's volcanoes under melting glaciers? Did you know that Jacob Shavin Glacier's been growing for years? Did you know NASA's telescopes and I would say measuring tools in Antarctica, did you know that they don't even know how much snow is falling? Like, I asked all these questions. He's like, oh, I never thought of that. I'm like, yeah, of course, because you guys just like literally hang out with each other. It's like Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris, and the Weinstein brothers just sniffing each other's butts and talking about how atheism's cool. It's like, yeah, cool story. Maybe someone will want to hear that on a podcast, but I don't. But, you know, to get back to what I was talking about before that very emotional atheist interrupted me, you know, find God. I'm just kidding. You don't have to. It's like, oh my gosh, you go into a Muslim channel and be like, oh my God, I don't want to hear about Allah. It's like, then click the X, bro. I'm not like a pastor, but for the sake of this, I'm telling him to find God. But if that bothers you, you also probably need to find God. But I'm not going to judge you. Anyway, you know, all these people were pushing this idea that the Hunter Biden laptop was disinformation, Russian disinformation, and they probably in some cases believe themselves, because for 4 or 5 years, this is called, I'm not like a psychologist of any sort. I'm not like one of these people, but, you know, my diagnosis of it is they're psychopaths, because it's like, you know, say Hillary Clinton, like millions of people don't like her because they like Bernie Sanders, right? Let's take this slow. There's 2 ways you can go about it. You could say, hey, I don't agree that you like Bernie more than Hillary, but I have a soul. I'm not a complete psychopath, and I want to find out why you like Bernie Sanders. And if you would have went to Bernie rallies and Bernie events, you could have found out, even if you disagreed with his socialism, even if you thought Hillary was better than Bernie, you could see why people liked him. You know, he had a different energy than Hillary that people were gravitated towards. He was telling people that he was going to help with their health care, and a lot of people have big health bills, and they thought that he would help. The point I'm trying to get, if you're not a complete psychopath, even if you like Hillary more than Bernie, you could look at them and be like, hey, I don't agree, but I know why you feel that way, and I'm going to try to find a way to get you to like my candidate. But no offense, most Democrats these days and people like Sam Harris and Liz Cheney have become total and utter psychopaths. So they look at you, and instead of trying to figure out how you think, which is what normal people do when they're trying to study how to win an election, they look at you and say, oh my gosh, you must be working for Russia, because I'm such a psychopath that I can't think of any other excuse for why you wouldn't like Hillary over Bernie. And then they did the same thing to Trump supporters. I don't care if you voted for Trump in 2016. I don't care if you hate him, you like him, you think he's the greatest thing on earth, you think he's whatever, I don't care. An honest person could look at the hundreds of millions of people who like Donald Trump and say, hey, I may not like Donald Trump, but this person likes him because he said he was going to drain the swamp. This person likes him because he's going to repeal the individual mandate from Obamacare, which was a disaster for millions of Americans. Maybe certain people it helped, but it also hurt a lot of people. His health care was not the best for a lot of families. You have to be honest about that. You could say some people want to build a wall, and that makes sense. You could say some people like his energy policies. Some people like his foreign policies. Some people are just tired of stiff robotic politicians and they wanted something new. The point I'm getting to is whether you like or dislike Donald Trump, an honest person can look at the hundreds of millions of people who like him and say, this is why they like him and I understand it. Or you could be a complete and utter psychopath like the Hillary base and all these people and say, oh, they must all be working for Russia. You could be like the ex-CIA director Michael Hayden and say they're the most contemptible and craziest people in the world I've ever seen in my life. It's like, no, there's an obvious reason why people like Trump over Hillary, and there's an obvious reason why people vote Republican. Like, what planet are you living on? Can I go down the 50 reasons that people prefer Republicans more than Democrats and why people prefer Trump more than other Republicans? I get it. Trump is not my first, second, or third choice for 2024. He annoys me. I think he's duped hundreds of millions of people into thinking he's this outsider when he's really a big pharma sleazeball who's probably friends with Bill Gates and sold your whole country out. That's what I think. But I still understand why people like him. And in order to make my point, I try to just show facts and say how I feel. And in general, acknowledge the fact that I get why people like him. But the psychopaths in the Democratic Party and the Liz Cheneys of the world and the Sam Harrises of the world, they can't understand that people disagree with them and see things a different way. So they literally just think everything is Russian. I mean, this is like the most insane thing I've ever seen. Like, the point I'm trying to get to is it's okay to disagree. It's okay to think someone's wrong. It's not okay to be such a psychopath that you literally call left-wingers and right-wingers Russia, Russia, Russia just when you disagree with them. So the point I'm getting to, now you fast forward 4 years, since these people have such high egos, such high emotion, such deranged levels of psychosis over politics, they can't handle the fact that hundreds of millions of people see things different. They're not willing to reach out with you with an olive branch and say, hey, here's my perspective. It's better than your perspective, believe me, and understand that some people won't. Instead, they become authoritarian psychopaths. I mean, they literally just start going, everybody that disagrees with me is Russian, everybody's a fascist, everyone's an authoritarian, everyone needs to be stopped, and that's how a psychopath is created. That's how an authoritarian is created. This is how dictators are created. This is how people start hurting other people, because they don't look at reality and say, this is how people got to this point, and it's my job to give them trust. The FBI and the CIA, Merrick Garland's a great example. He stands up there and says, I am so mad that people don't trust the FBI. Well, then explain to people why they're so uninterested in Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein stuff. Or maybe they are interested and we just can't see it. Explain what the Gretchen Whitmer thing was. That was really creepy. When it comes to the CIA, when you have a former director basically saying that because I'm a registered Republican, I'm worse than the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, people in the Middle East who will chop your head off because of your religion. The ex-CIA director is suggesting that I'm worse than evil people in the world. I mean, murderers, cult members, like that's what he's saying about Republicans. And he at one point ran the entire thing. So the point I'm getting to is psychologically, I don't care that these people disagree with my politics. I don't care that they want higher taxes over lower taxes. I don't care that they believe the best way to create social justice is to turn, New York City and LA into no-go zones where Asian people are just getting beat up by a certain demographic that you're not allowed to notice and they just blame, someone else. Whatever. I don't care, but what really creeps me out is not the fact that I disagree with Democrats. It's the fact that they're so damn stubborn and everything in their head is like, oh my gosh, it's Russian. So to fast forward, you get this Hunter Biden laptops thing. Where's the evidence that it came from Russia, that it had anything to do with Russia? I mean, not everything is Russia. There's other countries in the world, Saudi Arabia, Israel, China, Ukraine. I mean, I could go down the list. There's countries in South America, Venezuela, Mexico, Canada, Britain. I'm not going to name every country in the world, but Russia's not the only country in the world, and they're not the only country that has interest in America. So everything's not Russian. Where was there proof that the Hunter Biden was misinformation from Russia? They didn't have any proof because they're psychopaths. They just say everything's Russian. I know this because I watched it from the left and then I watched it from the right. I watched them call every Bernie supporter a Russian bot. I watched them call every Trump supporter a Russian bot. I watched them call Trump Russia. And then I watched them call the Hunter Biden disinformation story Russian just because they hate Donald Trump so much, when in reality, do they actually believe it's from Russia? I'm not sure. Maybe they're such psychopaths now that they actually believe everything's Russian all the time. Maybe they don't believe it and they're just using it to manipulate the 2020 election. What did suppressing that story do? Suppressing that story ended up giving Biden a little extra boost and hurting Trump, because the Hunter Biden story, it's not just nothing. If there is connections to foreign countries, it proves that maybe this president is not the one you want if his son is doing massive deals on behalf of his father in other countries. But instead of acknowledging that, this is how Democrats think. I mean, you want to get into the minds of some of these people, look no further than Sam Harris. He perfectly encapsulates how they feel about Trump, about Republicans, and about any information that damages senile people like Joe Biden that they see as a savior to fight Trump.
I don't care what's in Hunter Biden's life. I mean, Hunter Biden, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared.
Why would you admit that on camera? That's something you keep in your heart. Like, if you're that big of a psychopath, you should keep it internally and be like, I think this, but I actually respect Sam Harris more than I ever have for admitting that to the public, that he doesn't care if there were dead corpses in the basement. He just doesn't care because he thinks Trump University is worse than, Chinese and Ukrainian corruption. It's like, the dude is a full-blown lunatic. You know what I'm saying? Full-blown lunatic. If you told me, the election's coming up and Trump, we literally found dead bodies, corpses, and we can prove it in his basement, I'd be like, yeah, that's really bad. That, whoever put those bodies there or whoever killed somebody needs to go to jail, because murder is evil. And I don't care if Trump's advisor does it, and I don't care if a Democrat does it. I'm not playing politics with murder or corpses. You know what I'm saying? Even if my favorite politician, if you could prove without a shadow of a doubt that they killed somebody, I don't like them anymore. I believe in something called the Bible, something Sam Harris rejects and tells everybody that he's got a better moral foundation. Clearly not, Sam Harris. Clearly you don't have a better moral foundation than Islam and Christianity. If you're admitting this to the public and thinking it somehow makes you smart, honest, moral, or right, you're a lunatic. Seek help, Sam Harris.
I don't care what's in Hunter Biden's life. I mean, Hunter Biden, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared.
That makes you a certified lunatic, Sam Harris. And I'm sorry to the people who are like, he sold out, he used to be better. He's never been smart. His takes on Trump are the dumbest things I've ever heard. It's literally like everything he says about Trump. And keep in mind, folks, I know some people don't want to hear this. I actually don't even like Trump anymore, because I think hundreds of millions of people like him for certain things he's done. I don't think they realize who the guy really is, and I watched what he did in 2020 shamelessly, and I don't even like him. Neither does Alex Jones, by the way. Alex Jones said yesterday that he thinks DeSantis is way better, and he says he's coming for Trump because Trump just sells vaccines too much. And Alex Jones helped him get elected, by the way. Say what you want about Alex Jones. When Trump got elected, he was one of the first people to support him. He had billions of views, That's an interesting thing. But anyway, without getting sidetracked, it's like, you can make an argument to me like, hey, this is what Trump did wrong. And I'll be like, yeah, no, I agree. I'm not one of these people that just thinks he never makes mistakes. But it's like, everything Sam Harris has ever said about Donald Trump has never made sense. He's never made sense. I'm one of those people who be like, same with like Joe Walsh and Liz Cheney. These people are not principled conservatives or principled Americans who just really see between. Same with Andrew Yang, by the way. That's another fraud. He's just like an opportunist. He's like, hey kids, I'm Andrew Yang. I'm so cool. I'm not the left or the right. Come, I'll spray whipped cream in your mouth if you come vote for the Forward Party. And you're like, Andrew, what are your policies in the Forward Party? He's like, we don't have policies. We're just a bit. It's like, then you're not a thing, dude. If you don't even have a spine to tell me what you believe, why would I want to go in your party? Maybe I know some people who could join Andrew Yang's phony Forward Party. Liz Cheney, who's looking for a new home. Maybe John Bolton, who's crying. He's like, oh my gosh, Liz Cheney. It's like, how about you and Liz Cheney go start a war by yourself, okay? I know you can't start a war without your people in office, John Bolton. I know you're so sad. He's like, I can't start any more wars. I want to fight Iran. It's like, then go with your big mustache with Liz Cheney, and you could bring Andrew Yang. He could be your little water boy or your medic. He'll be like, medic, whatever. But all these people never made sense to me. They're like, Sam Harris, like every time he talked about Donald Trump, he's like, I don't like Trump. I'm like, I'm listening, and he's like, because I'm just dirt. And I'm like, dude, this guy, like, what is it with people? I'm not saying it's just older people, because there's a lot of obviously dumb younger people. I'm not blaming older people, but like there is this, like, I'm going to say like 40 to 80-year-old range. If they're not right wing, they like people that like watch CNN all the time. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what it is about this crowd, but they're like, I don't care about the truth. I don't care about the facts. I don't care about reality. I'm just going to say everything's Russian because I hate Donald Trump. It's not healthy to hate that much. You're talking to someone who constantly says he's a sleazy vaccine salesman. I don't actually think he's a good person, and I think he's a horrible, deceitful leader to the Republican Party. However, I'm not going to just like do crazy things because I hate Donald Trump. It doesn't make sense. I have actual principled stances. Andrew Yang doesn't have principled stances. I don't think he has any principled stances. He's just a fraud. Sam Harris doesn't have principled stances. Liz Cheney doesn't have principled stances. What's that other guy's name? Joe Walsh. He was like a Tea Party guy who just cried when Trump won and then started believing left-wing narratives. I would be fine if he was like, I'm Joe Walsh and I'm a principled conservative and I don't like Donald Trump because he's not conservative. Then I would be like, okay, that makes sense, but he doesn't make sense. He says, the first thing is he started working with Russia. It's like, no, Joe Walsh, you boo-hooed over Trump because you didn't like his personality. Then you started believing a bunch of mainstream media, and you didn't even fact check it. I mean, I spent 2 years going into the Russia collusion stuff. They were exaggerating, and it's like, there's a difference between disliking Donald Trump from a right-wing perspective and being honest about it. This is not honesty. This is called being a psychopath.
I don't care what's in Hunter Biden's. I mean, Hunter Biden, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared.
That means you're a lunatic. You can join the side of Looney Tunes like Stephen King. What's his name? Stephen King, the writer who writes about like creepy like murder stories or whatever. I don't know. What does Stephen King even write about? Like horror things? Stephen King, this is a parody, by the way, just so I don't want him to sue me, but it's like, Stephen King will say something along the lines of like, Donald Trump, like all these people project, Donald Trump's a psychopath. I'm Stephen King. Donald Trump's a psychopath. It's like, Donald Trump is not the one who wrote books about like killer clowns, or I don't even know what he writes books about. It's just like these creepy horror, like nightmare stories. Like, you have to be a borderline psychopath to even think of that in the first place. It's like, I'm going to write a poetry book. I'm going to write a book about the sun shining, I'm going to make a song about what I'm thinking. And Stephen King's like, I'm going to write a book about killer clowns and kids dying. It's like, like, why does that come to your brain? I'm all for fiction. Somebody's got to write stories that I don't agree with. We do live in a semi-not free country, but you get what I'm saying? It's like, they're always like, he's a psycho. It's like, have you ever read your books? Like, you have to be quite the lunatic to think of that type of stuff. Like, what does Stephen King wrote? Let's just look. I'm going to look it up. So, allegedly, reportedly, let's see. Stephen King, the totally not psychopath who just hates Donald Trump so much. Let's see. What are his famous books? Carrie. What is that about? Like a psycho killer girl or something? A possessed girl? Let's see. What else did he write? Tales from the Crypt. I Was a Teenage Grave Robber. The first of his stories to be independently published was "I was a teenage grave robber." Yeah, nothing psychotic about a man who writes books about kids robbing graves. I mean, that's totally normal, right? I mean, Orange Man bad, but Stephen King man good. Let's see. The story takes place in a fictitious district of Bellwood, California. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Leaving Vicky in his car, Danny finds the laboratory ransacked with broken glass. A giant maggot kills Weinbaum. Danny kills the maggot by setting the green liquid on fire, then flees with Vicky. Yeah, nothing screams not psychopath like writing a bunch of books with killer maggots that kill humans and like robbing graves. Yeah. Oh yeah, dude, you're totally sane. But overall, I'm gonna keep this pretty brief. Just to wrap it up, Liz Cheney says she'll do whatever it takes to defeat Donald Trump. I don't think that's really good rhetoric, because to me it just sounds desperate. If you said, I love this country and I'll do whatever it takes to, keep it like constitutional and amazing, and, I'll do whatever it takes to keep it that way. But if your whole agenda becomes hating and stopping someone else, and that's the only thing you want to do with no vision, you become a bad person. You turn into somebody like Sam Harris, who literally in his pursuit to stop the Orange Man is literally willing to ignore or justify a basement filled with dead corpses because he just hallucinates that Donald Trump is like, it's so bad for the country that he'll do whatever.
I don't care what's in Hunter Biden's. I mean, Hunter Biden, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared.
And this is not a fringe opinion. There are millions of people who probably agree with him because they hate the Orange Man and Republicans and conservatives and Ted Cruz so much that they'll go to any lengths to stop them. And that's what makes you a psycho. It's like if you said, hey, Anomaly, are you going to vote for Trump? Like, is he going to be your, is he going to be your primary choice? I'd be like, no, I'd rather vote for Rand Paul. I'd rather vote for Thomas Massie. If DeSantis challenged him, I would debate about even voting for him over Trump. I don't know. We'll see. But at the same time, if there were corpses in a basement, that is leagues more important than my political philosophy of choice of who I would vote for. And I would want them to be arrested. But in Sam Harris's head, it's like, no, I don't care about corpses in basements. I mean, this Orange Man, he really did Trump University. It's like, dude, you've lost the plot. Find God, Sam Harris. Stop trying to con millions of kids into thinking you're smart. Stop telling everybody how bad religion is, where you're an empty vessel. You're a smooth brain, fake intellectual. Your political takes are garbage. You just say a bunch of things in circles that sound profound to people that aren't smart or have no spirit, and you mislead them constantly. And as somebody that doesn't even want to vote for Trump in 2024 because I'd rather Rand Paul or Thomas Massie or someone like that's actually conservative and isn't a socialist big pharma salesman parading around as a capitalist, I would never say or think something like that because it is categorically insane. And this is my ending message to both parties. Don't hate too much. You know what I'm saying? When your whole identity is opposing something else, you become empty. Even if you disagree with Trump or you disagree with AOC or Ilhan Omar, you don't want to make your whole identity hating them because you're going to end up turning into what you hate. It's too much. And, you can disagree with it. You can righteously oppose Ilhan Omar or AOC or Trump whenever it is the righteous thing to do. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with you calling out politicians on both sides. But I see this happening in America right now, and it's happening to both parties, is people hate more than they love. People are just insatiable to fight. And in this world, it's like a manifestation thing. If you're looking for a fight, you're going to find it. If you're angry, you're going to find the other side that's angry. I see psychologically people like Colin Kaepernick, for example. Like Colin Kaepernick, he hates himself in another body. I can prove it, okay? Obviously, he's half white. He was raised by white people, but he has a point to make. He's like very pro-black. If you were to give, say you gave Colin Kaepernick the same ideology, racial ideology, you put it in a white person, he would hate himself. He wants to be pro-black. He wants to support his race. He wants to think about his race more than others. He wants to lobby for his race. And he wants to only support businesses in some cases, like support our own. he wants to do that. If you had a white version or a Jewish version or an Asian version, any other version, probably just white and Jewish though, because I don't know that he'd care if an Asian person did it. But you put Colin Kaepernick in a white body, let's just say, and he says, "Hey, Colin Kaepernick, I am you. I'm just the white version of you. I support my own businesses. I like myself. I want to lobby for my people." He would be like, "Oh my God, that's a racist. Oh my God, that's an extremist." And it's like, bro, that's literally just a mirror of you. He hates himself. If you're going to be this pro-black activist or white activist or whoever you are, the thing is you can't fault others for doing what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not one of these people that overhypes like I want to only support businesses of my own ethnic group. That's not who I am, because honestly, I appreciate everybody, and a good service is a good service. If it's a Thai restaurant, it's a Thai restaurant. I'm not just going to eat white people food all the time because I want to help my own. That's just not how I think. I'm like, if it's good, I'll support it. You know what I'm saying? I find beauty in all places. But if there was someone that did that, then all I ask is, I don't care that you do that for your race. Like if you're Korean and you only want to support Korean businesses, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I'm not one of these people, "Oh my God, you're a racist. You're white, you're black, you're Asian, you do this, you're racist." I don't even use that word anymore because it's just overhyped and it's annoying and it's cringe. And honestly, everybody's like, "You're the real racist." I'm like, you're both just dumb. I don't even care anymore. But if you're going to do that, you can't stop other people from doing it. You become a hypocrite. And this is what you see happening in the world today, is because people hate too much. They hate so much the other side that they turn into exactly what they hate. You see that in Sam Harris. You see that in Liz Cheney. You see that in Joe Walsh. Andrew Yang's just a phony. He's not hateful. He's just a little sneak. But in general, it's like this happens on the right wing too. I see a lot of people that are so into hating on left wingers and hating on, some of these teachers and hating on AOC. And I'm not saying you can't call them out. You could do whatever you want, but they hate so much that they forget who they are. They're not paying attention to their party. That's why I preach so much. I talk about Republicans. It's like a self-awareness check where I'm just going to say it. I've said it a bunch because it's true. I'm a registered Republican. I will be voting all Republican. I think strategically it makes sense. I see the difference between how they lead, even if it's smaller than I want. And my personal political opinion is I will vote for these people because they're the lesser of two evils and there are some benefits to what they do. However, I'm not going to keep my mouth shut and just say, "Oh my God, you're great because you're fighting Ilhan Omar." No, they're not. They suck. Ted Cruz is a phony. Trump's a vaccine salesman. And we're run by a bunch of people who are getting lobbied by a bunch of people just like the left. You just don't know it because they wear cowboy hats and say what you want to say. So that's kind of my message. At least that's my personal strategy. I don't care if people agree, where it's like I check my own side all the time, not because I think the left is so great and not because I'm a Democrat, because you become what you hate. In pursuit of fighting Donald Trump and Republicans, Democrats have become dumber than ever. They become weaker than ever. They're like, "Oh, toxic masculinity is so bad, so all us Democrat men's are going to be as pathetic as possible. We're going to switch genders and suck the testosterone out of our body, and we're not going to have kids to fight the right wing." It's like, you realize that you're metaphorically and almost literally killing yourself and your legacy over the future generations. If every shriveled up Democrat, testosterone-less, Democrat man is like, "Oh, we're going to fight the right wing, and fight climate change by having no kids," it's like, then you're going to be wiped off the face of the earth in 50 years, because if conservatives and Mormons are having 12 kids and other cultures are having a bunch of kids and you don't want to have any to fight the right, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You lose, So it's like, in order to fight the right, they are literally just beating themselves up. They're like, "Oh, you want to make fun of, me for being pathetic? Then I'm just going to be more pathetic because I'm free to do it." It's like, yes, you are free to turn yourself as a man into a shriveled up, pathetic human being that doesn't have a spine to speak the truth, is afraid of women, you know what I'm saying? Doesn't question the LGBT mafia because they now have supremacy over humanity, and you could joke about white people, but you can't joke about the gays, and Dave Chappelle's a bad guy. Like, you can play that, but this is the point I'm getting. The nicest thing I could say to liberals is you're destroying yourself mentally, spiritually, politically. Like, until you self-reflect and realize what you're doing, you're going to be insane. Even when you win, you're going to lose, because where you think you're going and where you're going are two different things. The same thing is happening to the right. There's definitely, in my professional opinion or non-professional opinion, there's more men on the right that are actually willing to like stand up. There are definitely more Second Amendment guns, etc. Like there's definitely more strength on the right wing. There's definitely more diversity of thought. There's definitely a lot of people who are challenging. So I consider the right, no offense to left wingers who are still somehow watching this, I consider the right leagues better than the left wing, leagues better. But the psychology remains the same. It's like being the number one basketball player in the world, and then you take 3 summers off, you don't train, you don't work out, you just think you're the shit because you're better than the other people, then you're not going to be the best anymore. So I challenge the right because I know that's what greatness is. I've watched plenty of great athletes and great fighters go from the best to nothing because it got to their head. I mean, Conor McGregor is a great example. He's a multi-millionaire, almost billionaire, one of the greatest fighters in history, but he's not really good anymore. And the only reason is, and I don't knock it because who cares at this point, but it's like, Conor McGregor made so much money and got so much fame, he stopped caring as much about fighting. Like he didn't have the Khabib level dedication to, I want to win, I'll train every day. He's probably getting drunk and banging chicks and being like, dude, I made so much money. So he's still a legend. I still love Conor McGregor. He's one of the GOATs, but at the same time, he's not a good fighter anymore. He's not like a top, 10, 20, 30 fighter because he didn't challenge himself. So that's all I'm saying. The left has become a shell of themselves, but don't get too cocky because then you're going to do what they did. They turned into a complete fraud shell because they just hate the right so much and they have no self-awareness and self-accountability. I'm watching the same thing slowly happening to the right. Not everybody, but a lot of the MAGA movement is they're so busy just sniffing Trump's butthole. They don't want to actually identify all of the joking, terrible things he did, and they just want to ignore it because he's not Joe Biden or he's not AOC. And if you hate the other side too much and don't self-reflect on the people you love and the things you love, then you're going to become a shell of yourself. Someone said, you weird Democrat. That literally makes no sense, Rank. God bless you, my guy, but if you don't understand what I'm talking about in the last 5-10 minutes, it's so basic, then you got to listen more, dude, because you're very stubborn and very ignorant. But I don't really care. It is what it is, and this is life. Not everybody wins. Not everybody wins the championship. Not everybody stays in shape. There's winners and losers in this world. That's capitalism. That's competition. And this is my message to the people who are actually listening and not just talking out of their butthole. You can win. I don't think people are just like, oh, you can't win because you're not good enough. It's like, no, how hard do you want to work? How much do you want to self-reflect? And a champion is great not by just hating on the other team. A champion becomes great by constantly looking at what they can improve. And that's my message to the Republican Party. That's my message to the Democratic Party. And that's my message to people like Liz Cheney and, Sam Harris, the pseudo-intellectual man who apparently just thinks he's so smart and hates Trump so much that he's willing to say something like this on camera and not understand what a psychopath he sounds like.
I don't care what's in Hunter Biden's life. I mean, Hunter Biden, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared.
God bless you, Sam Harris. I hope you find peace. I hope you start self-reflecting because you're no longer smart or you're just kind of creepy. And, that's really weird. I hope you do some soul searching and look into your own thoughts because they're really dumb. And, everybody knows it now. So God bless you guys. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. Real quick, Facebook, we will do a live stream Friday. So if you're a Facebook subscriber, thank you. If you're not, you could become one if you want. And we'll do a private live stream Friday. There's going to be probably 10 to 30 people there max. I'm not really sure. So if you want to ask questions and actually get to chat, that's the place to do it. On Patreon, the perk up there, patreon.com/raretalk, the perk is we do secret podcasts. We now have 4. I have 2 with one friend. I have a 3rd with another friend. I have a 4th with an anonymous friend named Mega Man. That's what he chose. I guess he thinks he's Mega Man or something, but for MAGA. So we had some great combos that are secret podcasts only on Patreon. We'll keep doing those. I try to do once every couple weeks or once every month. And also there's a few perks on Patreon as well. Appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for supporting and even watching and sharing support. So everybody is very appreciated. And this is the Dream Rare podcast, available pretty much everywhere. BitChute, Rumble, Spotify, Apple, Facebook, YouTube, and audio and video. So just got to check it out. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.